Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Southeast Media Sunrise, dedicated to giving a voice to authors of all genres. I'm your host, Jody Hawkinson. Joining us remotely by phone today is Marilynn Hughes, author of The Oral Transmissions of the 52 Soto Zen Buddhist Ancestors, an overview, part of the Overview series. Marilynn Hughes founded the Out-of-Body Travel Foundation in 2003 with a mission to reduce spiritual and physical hunger worldwide. Marilynn has written 98-plus books, 40 magazines, and about 15 CDs on out-of-body travel and comparative religious mysticism. These books, along with accompanying music and art, are all available for free download. Marilynn has experienced, researched, written, and taught about out-of-body travel and mysticism since 1987, and has appeared on a multitude of radio and television programs to discuss her thousands of out-of-body experiences. Thank you for joining us today, Marilynn.
Thank you. It's nice to be with you, Jody.
So tell me, what are the oral transmissions?
The oral transmissions are so fascinating. These go back to literally all the way back to the time of Shakyamuni Buddha, but it was in the 14th century that a Buddhist priest by the name of Keizan Zenji realized that these transmissions would be lost if someone did not record them. And so Keizan Zenji was the one who originally penned what is called the Denkaraku, the record of the transmission of light. And what these are, these oral transmissions, they begin with Shakyamuni Buddha, and they go through the line of succession from Shakyamuni Buddha through each of the Zen Buddhist ancestors, and it actually records the moment of enlightenment and what was the actual words that brought about this moment within the ancestors. It's very fascinating because they're all different. And they also recorded, a lot more in the Denkaraku, but these oral transmissions are what happened between each generation of the Zen ancestors. Ironically, it was originally written just for the priests to study in the monasteries, but in the 20th century, it was made available to laymen to also take a look at.
So what inspired you to write this book?
Well, what inspired me to write it was because of the grand importance of literally what that is. These are some of the greatest enlightened minds, throughout our history. These are people like Nagarjuna, Bodhirama, Master Dogen. These are some of the greatest Zen Buddhist teachers known to man, and a lot more that are unknown as well, that are not really remembered by many. And these are the actual moment of impact, so to speak, when the Spirit came upon them and they just understood the Zen teaching and literally received what is called the Dharma, the teaching of the Buddha. There's this moment where it suddenly, you embody it. It becomes a part of you, and that's what this moment is. Another part of what is included is also this summarization that Master Keizan Zenji included of the teachings of each of these Zen ancestors, because each of the Zen ancestors had their own unique take on the Zen teachings. And so there is a summarization of what each particular ancestor focused on in their own particular path in Zen. So it's just a fascinating line of transmission. It's so important. It's very similar, in essence, to the line of succession you see even like with the popes in Catholicism. It's just so important, this line of succession concept. And a lot of people don't realize that they have that as well, all the way back to Shakyamuni Buddha in the Zen tradition.
So you say that each one of them were individual, but there were two key elements that you've included with each ancestor in the book. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, the first key element would be the actual moment of enlightenment, which is what were the actual words, what were they actually seeing when they experienced the enlightenment and actually received the teaching, so to speak. The second part, that is the second key, is the summary of the teaching as it applied to what they taught during their own lifetime. And so these are two really key elements because, we owe a lot to Master Kazan Zenji for writing these things down because he had this forethought and wisdom to realize at the time that if someone did not do this, that it would be lost to us forever. And this is such a spiritual treasure that it was preserved. And, the other thing as well that we also include that they're not part of the key elements, but there's a little history of some of the lives of them. But also, each of the ancestors receives a different name, and then we talk about what does that name actually mean, which also gives us insight into what their particular gift in the Zen line was going to be. So it's very fascinating. It's a very meditative type journey where you can take the experience of one particular ancestor and really meditate upon it to try to, almost like recreate that in yourself, in your own meditation, to try to understand.
Interesting. So let's talk a little bit about why this is so significant to religious history.
Well, it's so significant because these are literally these would be like among the greatest moments in religious history. So, like, if you're looking at Christianity, you have things like the visions of Ezekiel, the visions of Elijah. You have the visions of Enoch. These are some of the great moments in religious history. Obviously, the Messiahship of Jesus Christ. These are great moments in religious history. In Zen Buddhism, these moments of enlightenment are among the great moments in the succession of their history. One of the interesting things we learn is that when Shakyamuni Buddha first transmitted to the first ancestor, he brought with him a flower and handed the flower to Saint Makakashio. And that became one of the traditions that is carried on even till today, because within the flower is a representation of all the universe. And so that goes all the way back to Shakyamuni Buddha. And with Makakashio received that flower, and the Buddha looked at him with a glint in his eye, and he said, Makakashio said, "I have the eye and treasury of the true law, the wondrous heart of nirvana." And so he understood, he had an interior understanding of a spiritual nature, that this was transmitted to him through the flower, seeing the fullness, the spiritual totality that was within that flower, that brought that enlightenment into being within him. That was the very, very first transmission. Another transmission, one of my favorites for some reason, is Saint Shishibotai. He's the 24th ancestor, and he said, he was speaking to the 23rd ancestor, Kakarokuna, and he asks Kakarokuna, "As I wish to pursue the way to enlightenment, how should I exert my mind in order to do it?" Kakarokuna answered, "If you would pursue the way, there is no situation where you need to exert your mind." And isn't that great? And so these are things where you take these in and you meditate upon them. And you literally are recreating that great moment in religious history, and you're having the opportunity to relive something that was experienced by these great ancestors, trying to grasp within yourself what they grasped in those moments, which made them, one of these great ancestors, which is a big deal. These are it's a very honored line to be one of the ancestors.
So how far does the line go back?
Well, it goes all the way back to the Shakyamuni Buddha, which goes, about 4,000 years or so. And when you look at that, that is such an amazing, thing to have that kind of a line preserved for us today. You know what I'm saying? And going back to Shishabodai, let me just tell you what Keizan Zenji said about his teachings. And again, here you have one of the great things to meditate upon. And so he says, if you want to manifest the absolute, do not conceal it. Indefinable in its emptiness, pure in its tranquility, it has been evident from the first. So you take these words to meditation, and here you are literally taking within you the essence of Shishabodai's teaching to meditation in the hopes of literally accessing the deeper understanding of what that means and allowing that literally to be born within you, because that's how we, how spiritual truths are by their very nature. They are born within us energetically, vibrationally, and that is why these things become so important. This is, religious history. Another one that I think is beautiful is from Saint Tendo Nyojo, the 50th ancestor. Keizan Zenji summarizes his teachings like this. The winds of training fan far into the distance, irresistible as a diamond is hard. They circulate everywhere, and because of them, the whole world is sustained. Within the words that these ancestors share are depths of meaning that can only be fully understood in the deepest of meditation. Ironically, one of the reasons this book was originally saved, particularly only for the priests of the Zen tradition, and actually they weren't supposed to be released to the West, and they weren't until the 20th century. And the reasoning for that was they didn't think a lay person or a Westerner could understand these things. But this is where the opportunity has presented itself for us to benefit from the wisdom of these great masters and to partake of it. Within these short words contain eons of wisdom, eons of knowledge, things that have to unfold within us for us to fully comprehend their depth. And, for those in the audience who are meditators, they'll understand the meaning of how valuable having these little messages, these moments of the actual transmission, as well as these summaries of their teachings in such a way provides a depth to the practice of meditation that ironically was reserved for the Buddhist Zen priests up until, just a few decades ago. And so it's really a unique opportunity for those who are intrigued or interested in the Zen tradition to open their minds to something that, may require a little bit of extra work on our parts, to understand it, to to put aside our inability to understand it on the surface and actually penetrate its depth and delve into it deeper. But there is a great fruit to be had from allowing that delving to occur, because these words contain within them much more than meets the eye. These are deep meditative principles that have sustained the Buddhist Zen tradition and the Buddhist priests, the monasteries, the monks, the nuns, for centuries. These are prophetic insights that are fairly new to the lay person. And what a wonderful opportunity and honor it is that we can now peruse, see, hear, and meditate upon them as well.
That's fascinating. It looks like we've run out of time. Anyone interested in purchasing this book can log into semediapro.com or visit Amazon. The book is available in Kindle, paperback, and audiobook. And for more information, you can visit outofbodytravel.org for free downloads of this or her other books. And again, we've been speaking with Marilynn Hughes, author of The Oral Transmissions of the 52 Soto Zen Buddhist Ancestors, an overview, part of the Overview series. Thanks again for joining us today, Marilynn.
Thank you. This has been fun. I really appreciate you having me on.
Oh, my pleasure. It's been fascinating. And listeners, if you're interested in getting your book published, please visit us at semediapro.com and click on the book publishing link. This is Jody Hawkinson, host of Southeast Media Sunrise, Southeast Media Productions. Like us on Facebook at Southeast Media Productions or visit our website at semediapro.com.